"Sir, my mommy says angels watch over us," whispered the girl to the man in the hospital bed. Marcus Webb stared at the ceiling tiles of room 314, counting the small holes in each one for the third time that morning. 47 holes per tile, 16 tiles total. 752 tiny perforations, staring back at him like the empty eyes of everything he'd lost. The morphine drip had been reduced again. Good. He preferred the sharp edge of pain to the fog of numbness. Pain, at least, was honest. It didn't lie about what was broken or pretend things would get better with time. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. "Mr. Webb," the nurse had said earlier, "your physical therapy starts Monday. The doctors say with dedication, you could regain 80% mobility in that leg. 80%. As if 20% of himself wasn't already gone, buried in the rubble of that collapsed building in Syria, along with his entire unit. As if the shrapnel in his femur was the only thing that needed healing. He pressed the call button. "I need the TV volume adjusted," he said when the nurse appeared. "Sir, the television isn't on." "Exactly," she sighed and left. Marcus had perfected the art of being difficult without being cruel. It kept people at arm's length, which was exactly where he needed them. Close enough to provide medical care, far enough away to avoid conversation about feelings, faith, or the future. The late afternoon sun slanted through the window, casting long shadows across the sterile white floor. Visiting hours would end soon, not that anyone visited him. His ex-wife had stopped coming after the second week. His commanding officer had sent flowers once. Even his physical therapist seemed relieved when he canceled sessions. That's when he heard its small feet in the hallway, moving slower than the hurried steps of medical staff. A child's voice, barely audible, humming something that sounded like a lullaby. Marcus turned his head toward the doorway and saw her. She was small, maybe 7 years old, with dark curls escaping from 2 uneven braids. Her yellow sundress was wrinkled, and she carried a worn stuffed elephant under her arm. She stood just outside his door, peering in with enormous brown eyes that seemed far too knowing for someone so young. "You're not supposed to be wandering around alone, kid," Marcus said, his voice rougher than he intended. Instead of running away, she stepped into his room. "I'm Sophia," she said simply. "I'm visiting my abuela. She's down the hall." "Well, Sophia, visiting hours are almost over. You should get back to your grandmother." She didn't move. Instead, she tilted her head and studied him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "You look very sad," she said. "I look like someone who wants to be left alone." Sophia walked closer to his bed, clutching her stuffed elephant. "My mommy says when people look that sad, it's because they forgot that angels watch over us. Double quotes. Marcus blinked. "Excuse me." "Angels," she repeated, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "They're always there, even when we can't see them, especially when we can't see them." Something twisted in Marcus's chest. "Kid, I don't know what your mother told you, but there are no angels here. This is a hospital. People come here because they're broken, and some of them don't get fixed." Sophia's eyes grew wider, but not with fear. With something that looked like pity. "Sir," she whispered, moving even closer to his bed, "my mommy says angels watch over us even when we stop believing in them. Maybe especially then. Your mother sounds like she's never been in a war zone. She says my daddy is an angel now. He died when I was little." Sophia's voice remained steady, matter of fact, but she says he still watches over us every day. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. "I'm sorry for your loss, Sophia, but will you help me pray for my abuela?" She interrupted. "She's very sick, and I think she needs extra angels watching over her tonight." The request hung in the air between them. Marcus stared at this small person who had walked into his room carrying grief like a badge of honor. speaking of angels as if they were as real as the four-pole beside his bed. "I don't pray," he said finally. "That's okay," Sophia said, climbing onto the chair beside his bed. "I can teach you. It's easy. Kid, you don't understand. I used to believe in things like guardian angels and divine protection. Used to think good people were watched over, that prayer mattered. That was before I watched good men die while I lived." Sophia considered this seriously. "Maybe," she said slowly, "the angels were watching over you so you could meet me." Marcus felt his carefully constructed walls wobble. This child, who should have been traumatized by loss, who should have been afraid of the angry stranger in the hospital bed, looked at him like he was worth saving. "Sophia!" A woman's voice called from the hallway, tinged with panic. "Sophia, where are you?" "In here, Mommy." Sophia called back, then turned to Marcus. "Will you think about it? About the angels?" A young woman appeared in the doorway, breathless and worried. She had Sophia's dark eyes but looked exhausted, the kind of bone-deep tired that came from keeping vigil at hospital bedsides. "Sophia, you can't just wander into other patients' rooms," she said gently, then looked at Marcus with apologetic eyes. "I'm so sorry. She's been worried about everyone today." "It's fine," Marcus found himself saying, though he wasn't sure why. Sophia slipped down from the chair and looked back at him. "I'll come check on you tomorrow, okay? In case you change your mind about the praying." And before Marcus could protest, she was gone, leaving behind the faint scent of strawberry shampoo and a question that echoed in the sudden silence. What if angels really were watching? And what if this small girl was proof? For the first time in months, Marcus Webb found himself hoping he was wrong about everything. The next morning, Marcus was picking at his breakfast tray when she appeared in his doorway again, this time carrying a small book with a butterfly on the cover. Her mother stood behind her, looking uncertain. "I brought you something," Sophia announced, walking straight to his bedside chair. "Sophia, we talked about this," her mother said softly. "Mr. Webb might be resting." Marcus looked at the woman properly for the first time. She was younger than he'd initially thought, maybe early 30s, with worry lines around her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. She wore scrubs, hospital staff. "You work here," he observed. "Elena Rodriguez," she said, extending her hand. "I'm a nurse on the pediatric floor. And I apologize again for Sophia. She seems to have adopted you." "I don't need adopting," Marcus said. But his tone was less sharp than yesterday. Sophia had already settled into the chair and opened her book. "This is my prayer book," she said. "Abuela gave it to me. Want to see?" Before Marcus could protest, she'd climbed onto the edge of his bed, book open between them. The pages were filled with childlike drawings of angels with crayon wings and stick figure families holding hands under rainbow skies. "This one's my favorite," Sophia said, pointing to a drawing of two figures on clouds. "That's Daddy and Jesus playing checkers. Mommy says Daddy always cheated at checkers, so Jesus probably lets him win sometimes." Elena's breath caught. "Sophia, we should let Mr. Webb rest." "It's fine," Marcus found himself saying. And surprisingly, it was. There was something soothing about Sophia's matter-of-fact approach to loss, as if death was just another room in a koshva. Very large house. "How long has your father been gone?" Marcus asked. 3 years, Sophia said, turning a page to show a drawing of a soldier with wings. "He was a soldier like you. Mommy says you were a soldier too. I can tell by how you sit up so straight, even when you're hurt." Marcus glanced at Elena, who shrugged. "Hospital scrubs don't hide everything. The way you carry yourself, the way you assess every room you enter. My husband was the same way." "Iraq," Marcus said quietly. "ID." Elena nodded. "Miguel too. Different unit, same war." The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was the silence of people who understood that some losses couldn't be explained, only shared. Abuela says Daddy and the other soldier angels help watch over people who are still fighting. Sophia continued, oblivious to the weight settling over the adults. Maybe they sent me to you. Sophia, Elena said gently, Mr. Webb doesn't need to hear our family stories. Actually, Marcus said, surprising himself, I'd like to hear about your husband. Elena's eyes widened, then softened. She sat on the edge of the extra chair. Miguel Rodriguez, staff sergeant, he was. He was the kind of man who remembered everyone's birthday and always shared his care packages with the guys who didn't get mail. How long were you married? Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. 8 years. Sophia was 4 when he died. Elena's voice grew quiet. She barely remembers him, but she talks about him like he's just away on deployment. Sophia looked up from her book. I remember his laugh. And how he made pancakes shaped like animals. Marcus felt his chest tighten. I had a unit, he said slowly. 8 good men. We were supposed to clear a building in Damascus. I was team leader. I went in first, but there was a secondary device. He stopped, his jaw working. You survived, Elena said simply. I survived because I was in front. They were behind me when the second explosion went off. All of them died because I chose the wrong entry point. Sophia closed her book and looked at him seriously. Did you try to save them? Sophia, Elena started. No, it's okay, Marcus said. Yes, sweetheart. I tried. Then the angels know you tried, Sophia said matter-of-factly. Abuela says angels don't expect perfect. They just expect trying. Marcus stared at her, this small person who spoke of angels like old friends and forgiveness like it was as simple as breathing. Your grandmother sounds very wise, he said. Sophia's face clouded. She's not talking very much anymore. The doctors say her body is very tired. Elena reached over and smoothed Sophia's hair. Abuela's been in and out of consciousness for 3 days. The cancer has spread too far for treatment. That's why I wanted to pray for her with someone strong, Sophia said, looking at Marcus. Mommy prays, but she cries when she does it. You look like someone whose prayers would be louder. Despite everything, Marcus almost smiled. Louder prayers don't necessarily work better, Sophia. But maybe they do, she said hopefully. Maybe God pays more attention to the really loud ones. Marcus looked at this child who had lost her father, was losing her grandmother, and still believed in angels loud enough to shake heaven. Something inside his chest began to unknot. Tell me about your grandmother, he said. Sophia's face lit up. Her name is Rosa, and she makes the best tres leches cake in the whole world. She taught me how to braid friendship bracelets and how to whistle with my fingers. She says prayers in Spanish that sound like music. She raised me after my parents died, Elena added. She's been Sophia's primary caregiver while I work double shifts to pay for her treatments. Rosa is. She's everything good about faith and family. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I used to pray with my men before missions. Before I stopped believing it mattered. What changed your mind? Elena asked gently. Watching them die anyway. Wondering what kind of God lets good men suffer while I walked away with just a limp. Sophia reached over and patted his hand with her small one. Maybe God didn't let them die. Maybe he just needed them for a different job. What kind of job? Being guardian angels for people like you and me and Abuela. Marcus looked at her hand on his, so small, so trusting, and felt something he hadn't experienced in 2 years. Not quite faith, but maybe its quiet cousin, hope. Would you teach me how to pray for your grandmother? He asked. Sophia beamed. Really? Really? But I'm warning you, I'm out of practice. That's okay, Sophia said, sliding closer to him. Angels are good teachers. For the first time since the explosion, Marcus Webb bowed his head and tried to remember. How to believe. 3 weeks later, Marcus had traded his wheelchair for crutches and his cynicism for something resembling peace. Every morning, Sophia would find him in the chapel, a small, quiet room on the second floor where he'd started going to practice praying without an audience. "You're getting better at this," Sophia observed, settling beside him on the wooden bench. She'd begun timing her visits to his physical therapy schedule, arriving just as he finished his sessions. "Still feels like talking to myself," Marcus admitted, but his tone was lighter than it had been in months. "That's okay. Sometimes God likes to listen more than talk." They developed a routine. Sophia would update him on her grandmother's condition. They'd pray together for Rose's comfort. Then she'd read him stories from her book while he helped her with homework. Elena had stopped apologizing for her daughter's presence. In fact, she'd started joining them, sharing quiet conversations about loss, healing, and the unexpected ways grief could transform into something else. Marcus had even begun visiting Rose's room. The elderly woman, when conscious, would squeeze his hand and whisper blessings in Spanish he didn't understand but somehow felt in his bones. She had Sophia's eyes and Elena's gentle strength, and Marcus found himself looking forward to the moments when she'd smile at him and say, "Mio, you look more peaceful today." That peaceful routine shattered on a Tuesday morning. Marcus was in physical therapy when Dr. Patterson found him. "Mr. Webb, there's been a development with Mrs. Herrera." Elena was crying in the hallway when he reached Rose's floor. Sophia sat in a chair beside her, holding her stuffed elephant and staring at the floor with an expression too old for her years. "What happened?" Marcus asked, moving as quickly as his healing leg would allow. "She had a stroke this morning," Elena whispered. "They don't think she's going to wake up this time." Sophia looked up at him with eyes full of confusion and betrayal. "I prayed every day," she said. "We prayed together. The angels were supposed to watch over her." Marcus felt his newly rebuilt faith waver. The familiar darkness crept back in. The voice that whispered this was exactly why hope was dangerous. Why belief was just setting yourself up for disappointment. He was about to say something comforting but empty when footsteps echoed down the hall. Marcus turned to see two figures approaching, a woman in an expensive suit and a man in military dress uniform, his ex-wife Rachel and Colonel Morrison. Marcus's stomach dropped. "Marcus," Rachel said, her voice a mixture of relief and exasperation. "We've been looking for you. You missed your appointment with the VI psychiatrist, and your discharge paperwork has been sitting unsigned for 3 weeks." Colonel Morrison stepped forward. "Son, we need to discuss your future. The Army's prepared to offer you a position at the Pentagon, desk work suitable for your limitations. But you need to complete your recovery program and get back to thinking clearly." Sophia looked between the adults, sensing tension but not understanding it. Elena wiped her eyes and started to gather Sophia's things, clearly feeling like they were intruding on something private. "Wait," Marcus said quietly. "Don't go." Rachel followed his gaze to Elena and Sophia with sharp eyes. "Marcus, who are these people?" "This is Elena and Sophia Rodriguez," Marcus said. "Elena's a nurse here, and Sophia ... He paused, looking down at the little girl who had somehow become the center of his world. "Sophia's my friend." "Your friend," Rachel repeated flatly. "Marcus, you're a decorated Army Ranger. You don't make friends with children in hospitals. This isn't healthy behavior." "Actually," Marcus said, something hardening in his voice, "it's the healthiest thing I've done in 2 years." Colonel Morrison frowned. "Webb, what's this about?" "The staff says you spend most of your time in the chapel and visiting other patients." "That's not like you." "Maybe the old me is gone," Marcus said, his hand finding Sophia's shoulder. "Maybe that's not a bad thing." Rachel's voice grew sharper. "The old you was focused, disciplined, rational. The old you didn't waste time with fantasy and false hope." "Marcus, you can't pray away PTSD or survivor's guilt. You need real treatment, not whatever this is." Sophia stepped closer to Marcus, her small hand slipping into his. "Are they saying praying is bad?" she whispered. "Sophia," Alina said gently, "maybe we should—" "No," Marcus said firmly. "They're not saying anything about you, sweetheart. They just don't understand." "Understand what?" Colonel Morrison demanded. "That you've regressed into some kind of religious fantasy? Marcus, you were one of my best officers. You commanded respect through strength and logic, not through sitting in chapels with— What?" Marcus's voice went deadly quiet. "Finish that sentence, Colonel." The challenge hung in the air. Sophia looked up at Marcus with wide eyes, and he realized she was seeing him angry for the first time. But not angry at her, angry for her. Protective in a way he hadn't been since before the explosion. "With a dying woman and a little girl who's lost her father," Marcus continued, his voice growing stronger. "With people who taught me that surviving isn't the same as living. With a child who looks at broken things and still sees angels." Rachel stepped forward. "Marcus, this is exactly what the psychiatrists warned about. You're projecting your need for the family we lost onto strangers. This isn't healing, it's avoidance." "We lost a family," Marcus said quietly, "because I was too afraid to be vulnerable enough to build one. Because I thought strength meant never needing anyone." He knelt down in front of Sophia, balancing on his good leg. "Sophia, do you remember what you told me about angels? About how they're especially watching when we can't see them?" She nodded, tears threatening. "I couldn't see them for a long time." Marcus said, "But you taught me how to look." He stood and faced Rachel and Colonel Morrison. "I'm not signing the discharge papers yet. I'm not taking the Pentagon job. I'm staying here until Rosa—" he swallowed hard, "until she doesn't need us anymore. And then I'm going to figure out what comes next, but it's going to include the people who saved my life." "A little girl saved your life?" Rachel asked incredulously. Marcus looked at Sophia, then at Alina, then back at his ex-wife. "A little girl taught me I was still worth saving. There's a difference." Just then, a nurse appeared in the hallway. "Mrs. Rodriguez? Your mother is awake. She's asking for Sophia." Elena gasped, fresh tears. "Starting." Sophia looked up at Marcus, hope and fear warring in her expression. "Come on," Marcus said, offering Sophia his hand. "Let's go see your grandmother." As they walked toward Rosa's room, Rachel called out, "Marcus, this isn't over. You can't hide from reality forever." Marcus paused without turning around. "I'm not hiding from reality," he said. "I'm finally facing it." In Rosa's room, the elderly woman's eyes were clear but tired. She beckoned Sophia close and whispered something in Spanish that made the little girl smile through her tears. "What did she say?" Marcus asked. Alina translated, her voice thick with emotion. "She said the angels told her it's almost time to go, but she wanted to see Sophia's soldier angel first. She wanted to make sure he knows how to take care of her little bird." Rosa's eyes found Marcus, and she reached out a trembling hand. When he took it, she squeezed with surprising strength and said in accented English, "Thank you for teaching my Sophia that broken things can still be blessed." Marcus felt tears he'd held back for months finally fall. "She taught me the same thing, Signora." Outside the room, Rachel and Colonel Morrison watched through the window as Marcus Webb decorated war hero, trained killer. Broken survivor knelt beside a hospital bed, holding hands with a dying woman and a small girl. All three of them praying together. And for the first time since the explosion, Marcus wasn't praying for the dead. He was praying for the living and discovering that sometimes angels answer in ways you never expect. Rosa Herrera passed away on a Thursday evening, just as the sun was setting through her hospital room window. Sophia was asleep in Marcus's lap, exhausted from 3 days of vigil. Elena held her mother's hand while Marcus kept his other arm around both of them, a human anchor in their storm of grief. When Rosa's breathing finally stilled, Sophia stirred and looked up at her grandmother's peaceful face. Instead of crying, she whispered, "Do you think she can see the angels now?" I think she's with them, Marcus said softly, and meant it. The funeral was small but filled with love. Marcus had never been to a service where grief and celebration walked so closely hand in hand. The church was packed with Rosa's friends from the hospital, her former co-workers, neighbors who brought casseroles and stories. Sophia sat between Marcus and Elena, wearing a yellow dress Rosa had bought her for Easter. During the service, the priest asked if anyone wanted to share memories. Sophia raised her small hand. My abuela used to say that when people we love become angels, they don't go far away, she said, her voice clear and strong. They just get invisible wings so they can be wherever we need them. I think my daddy got his wings so he could send Marcus to us, and now abuela has hers so she can watch all of us together. After the service, Elena found Marcus in the chapel, where they'd first learned to pray together. He was still in his dress uniform, sitting in their usual pew. Thank you, she said simply, settling beside him. For what? For showing up, for staying, for becoming the person she needed you to be. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I got a call from the VA this morning. They're offering me a counseling position, working with combat veterans dealing with PTSD and survivor's guilt. Elena smiled softly. That sounds perfect for you. It would mean staying in the city, being available. The weight of what he wasn't saying hung between them. Not just available for the job, but available for them. For the family they'd accidentally created in hospital hallways and chapel pews. Sophia would like that, Elena said. She's been worried about who would pray with her when you go back to being a soldier. I am still a soldier, Marcus said. Just fighting a different kind of battle now. 3 months later, Marcus moved into a small apartment 6 blocks from Elena and Sophia's place. His new job at the Veterans Center was challenging but meaningful, helping other broken soldiers find their way back to believing in something beyond their pain. Every Sunday, he and Sophia visited Rosa's grave, bringing fresh flowers and updates about their week. Sophia would chatter to the headstone about school and new friends, while Marcus would stand quietly, sometimes sharing his own struggles with the grandmother who had blessed him in her final days. I think she likes the yellow roses best, Sophia announced one sunny afternoon, arranging the bouquet with careful precision. How can you tell? Marcus asked. Because yellow was her favorite color for happiness. And when I told her about you helping other soldiers learn to see angels, she would have been happy. Elena approached with a picnic blanket and sandwiches. It had become their tradition lunch with Rosa, then an afternoon in the park where Marcus taught Sophia to throw a proper spiral, and she taught him the words to songs she'd learned in church choir. Any good angel stories this week? Elena asked as they settled on the grass. Tommy Richardson, Marcus said, unwrapping his sandwich. 23. Lost his unit in Afghanistan. Yesterday, he told me he prayed for the first time since the explosion. Said if a tough old soldier like me could learn to believe in guardian angels, maybe there was hope for him too. Sophia beamed. See? Abuela's wings are already working. As the afternoon wore on, Sophia fell asleep against Marcus's shoulder while he and Elena talked quietly about small things, work, the weather, plans for Sophia's upcoming birthday. Normal things, family things. Can I ask you something? Elena said eventually, always. That first day, when Sophia asked you about angels, what made you say yes? You could have sent her away. Marcus was quiet, watching clouds drift across the sky. I think, he said finally, it was the way she looked at me. Like I was worth saving, even when I didn't believe it myself. And now? Now I know she was right. We're all worth saving. Sometimes we just need someone small enough to slip through our defenses and remind us. Elena reached over and took his hand scarred from shrapnel, steady from healing, warm from holding on to. Hope, she's been drawing again, Elena said. Pictures of our family. Our family? 3 figures under a rainbow. A little girl, a mommy, and Elena paused, smiling. A soldier angel with very straight posture and a crooked halo. Marcus laughed, the sound still surprising him with its lightness. Crooked halo? She says all the best angels have crooked halos. Means they're working extra hard. That evening, as Marcus tucked Sophia into bed, a privilege that had somehow become his routine, she looked up at him with sleepy eyes. Marcus? Yes. Sweetheart? Do you think my daddy and abuela are friends in heaven? I think your daddy probably likes Rosa very much. Why? Sophia yawned and snuggled deeper into her pillow. Because I asked them to take care of you. You know, in case you forget. You're not alone anymore. Marcus felt his throat tighten with familiar emotion. But it was good emotion now. The kind that connected rather than isolated. Healed rather than wounded. I won't forget, he promised. Good, Sophia mumbled, already half asleep. Because guardian, angels work better when people remember they're there. Marcus kissed her forehead and whispered a prayer, not for the dead this time, but for the living. For the chance to be worthy of the trust placed in him by a small girl with enormous faith. For the strength to keep believing in invisible wings and crooked halos, and the way love could transform the most broken things into something beautiful. In the hallway, Elena waited with 2 cups of tea and a smile that reminded him daily why. Angels sometimes came disguised as ordinary people living extraordinary lives, and Marcus Webb, former soldier, survivor, guardian angel to a little girl who had taught him how to see, finally understood that some battles were won not by fighting, but by learning how to surrender to grace. Outside, stars appeared one by one in the darkening sky, and if you knew how to look, really look, you might have seen the gentle shimmer of wings watching over a family that chose each other, one prayer at a time. Sometimes healing comes in the smallest packages. Sometimes angels speak in whispers. And sometimes the most broken among us become the very hands and hearts that hold others together. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.